So hi Emily, we're back again for our next update on the project that we're working on together to support organisations to be more mentally healthy. Today we're going to have a conversation, a bit more detail about what the programme looks like. So Emily's going to drill into some of the detail around the units, what we'll focus on as part of the apprenticeship programme. And then we're also going to go through some of the frequently asked questions we're getting from employers about the apprenticeship programme, about the Process Leader Standard, and how we set up the programme for success. So over to you, Emily, for the starting bit.
Excellent. Thanks, Michaela. We're getting quite good at these now, aren't we?
We're making a bit of it, aren't we?
I feel like I want my own chat show now. We're so good at this. Yeah, definitely. Do you know what? Since we launched the Workplace Mental Health Leadership Apprenticeship, we've had so much interest that I think these sessions that we're having are really helpful for people to get to understand a little bit about what we're doing, because it is so new. It is the first in the UK of its kind. So what we found was that while we're talking about mental health in the workplace, we've seen a lot of initiatives put into place, but we actually haven't seen any of those initiatives really work and start to see, really effective culture change, where we're seeing lower rates of sickness absence due to mental health problems, work-related stress. So we knew we needed to create something that really filled a gap to ensure that the people who were expecting to make these culture changes in the workplace had everything that they needed to be able to do that. And I think that's been missing the past 5 years when we've talked about mental health in the workplace. So what we've been working on together is a Workplace Mental Health Leadership Apprenticeship, and it is 2 qualifications which is delivered as 1 qualification, and I think that's what we need to help people to be quite clear on what it is, especially looking at the standard. So the first part of the qualification is the Workplace Mental Health Leadership Diploma, which is a level 4, and this includes 16 units and a strategy and action plan that the learner will design throughout the apprenticeship on how to change the culture in the workplace, initiate and embed a fully effective strategy and action plan as a decision maker. So we're looking at medium, the middle to kind of senior leaders, HR, occupational health, and health and safety professionals as well. So with regards to the diploma section of it, those 3 units are really kind of fully immersive in what a decision maker and leader needs to be able to know and do to embed that strategy and culture change. So I'll just cover some of the units, because I know we don't want to take up too much time today talking about this, because this seems to be the bit that everybody's interested in, the more kind of frequently asked questions and more around the Process Leader Standard. And I think that's where we should spend a little bit more time today talking about that side of it. So what the units talk about is helping the learners to understand and implement legislation appropriately, especially around creating and designing good work, using the management standards approach, HSE legislation around preventing work-related stress and auditing work-related stress, doing stress risk assessments, which is essential for culture change around creating a mentally healthy workplace. As we know, workplace stress, causes 0.6 million people every year to be absent from work due to work-related stress, anxiety, and depression. It creates psychological injuries, and that statistic isn't going down at the moment. We also look at how to understand and remove stigma and discrimination, and especially around every value that is implemented by an organisation. So this is your company values, how they fit into the recruitment journey, how your leadership role model those values, all the way down to the promotion of the strategy and action plan, which is part of the programme that they're creating. We then go through understanding mental health legislation with the Equality Act, reasonable adjustments, and how they should be safely implemented, all the way through to how to be a mentally healthy leader. So we look at things like transactional analysis, one-to-ones, appraisals, having general conversations around mental health and work-related stress. We also implement some of the more kind of practical skills around talking about mental health in a confident way. So we do this by providing these leaders with the practicalities and the practice and the role model and opportunities to how to support somebody who is in crisis. Because at the end of the day, if we're asking people to open up these conversations, we have to be confident in following these conversations all the way to the end, an onward referral for people who may be in crisis. So 13 units altogether. You know, we can give out more information on the units, but I think that's just a little bit of a summary of what we will be doing. But I think the most important part that we get the questions are about are understanding the Process Leader Standard that makes it an apprenticeship. So we've worked together to map over our diploma into the Process Leader Standard, and this is where we get all the questions from. So just some of the questions really for you to answer today, Michaela, is one of the first ones is, I've never heard of the Process Leader Standard before. So it is quite a new standard. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit of background on the Process Leader Standard itself.
Yeah, sure. So it's still, as you say, quite a new one. So the organizations that came together as a trailblazer to design this program were organizations like BMW were one of the leads on it. And it was really designed by those people in manufacturing who are really the kind of founding fathers around process improvement, efficiency saving, lean principles and methodology. But they felt that when designing this program, it was important to embed the leadership behaviors, capabilities that they were looking for in their people as well. So the reason that we chose Process Leader as a standard was really due to the level of change and change management that's involved in this particular apprenticeship. So because the groups going on the program will be going through a real phase of kind of culture change within their organization to support their people in being more mentally healthy, putting new strategy in place, most importantly, embedding that and implementing that strategy, then evaluating the success of it, looking at new ways of working, new business practices, streamlining their processes so that people understand how to get support and how to signpost people. It's such a huge part of cultural change that actually doing a standalone apprenticeship purely around leadership perhaps wouldn't be the right answer. So we felt Process Leader focused enough on improvement, on change management, driving change, driving efficiencies, that it would support people to embed that change perhaps quicker than with some of the other apprenticeship programs that are out there. So the project is probably the biggest part of the whole program, because they will be, embedding that change, working on a project as an individual, but engaging their stakeholders, their team, organization to go through that change curve with them as well. And I think those skills take a real pressure on that leader to, role model those behaviors, to support people thinking about how they adapt and change and become more agile as an organization so that they can bring in a new strategy. So we're quite excited about this standard. We're working on it with a number of different organizations in lots of different sectors. And, on first glance, I think when people delve into the Institute of Apprenticeship search engine, which is, I talk a lot about how difficult it is to find information on there. At first glance, it might be that people think, oh, actually, that's not for us. That doesn't fit our sector or the challenges that our teams are facing. But when you drill down into how people are assessed, really it's that project that is the core of the endpoint assessment process. So looking at how people manage projects, affect change within their organisation, and improve processes and systems. So that for us feels like a natural fit.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's about the transformational leadership, isn't it? And this is really what, if we want to create mentally healthy workplaces that can thrive, and this is what we've been pushing all of this time to do, we need transformational leaders who have the right knowledge and skills and tools to be able to do that. And up until now, the only thing that we've really been given these people with the expectation to do that is a 2-day mental health first aid course or a 1-day managing mental health for managers. So I completely agree with the process leader standard, is that it really does fit into that transformational leadership around mental health in the workplace. So I think you made it extremely clear there, especially around people see the word manufacturing and they get kind of stuck there as if, well, that's a manufacturing company. You know, how can we help people to get past that barrier and see the standard as a process leader standard for any occupation and industry? Do you have any examples of how it's worked really well with other industries?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely two things there. So one is really our starting point with any organization is always, what is the challenge or the problem that they're trying to fix within their organization? So what is it they're looking for in terms of behavioral change? And I think when you start talking to organizations more around that, there'll be very few that say, we don't want leaders who are transformational. We don't want leaders who are courageous. They're making change within their organization. They're implementing new ways of working. It's improving the performance of their team, the mental wellness of their organization. I think when we frame it like that, people say, well, of course we want that. You know, any organization, any sector, you want leaders and managers who are capable of doing that. And really, that's what's at the core of the process leader standard, that ability to lead change, to embed new ways of working, and that cultural piece, which is really important. Some organizations, you know, they will never be able to kind of move past that point on what it says in the standard and think about how that fits for their organization. But, you know, any company we've worked with so far, whether it's an SME through to your larger corporates, we all have processes that we're working on. We all have systems that allow us to run and scale our organizations. So when you delve into that piece of the standard, actually most organizations that we've come across have been able to then say, well, actually, do you know what? We do have processes that we run. We do have areas where there's weaknesses that are either slowing us down or making us less efficient, less productive. And then once we get into that detail, people can start to see how that's going to help support their leaders and their managers to improve and work to the kind of targets, KPIs, challenges that we all have. Almost more so post-COVID, because there's more pressure on people to be efficient. We're doing a lot more, but often with less people. So that streamlining of processes and systems, I think, is really important. In terms of the sectors and the organizations where we're already implementing process leader, clearly manufacturing, engineering, distribution centers, they can very quickly see the benefit of that because they're already using that language within their organization. They're talking about being lean. They're talking about waste reduction. In those that are probably slightly different, that people wouldn't have necessarily thought of the link, particularly financial services. So financial services, banking, investment management. So those professional services are really seeing the benefit of being much more efficient in the way that they work. So implementing this already in law firms, which again, you know, on first look at the standard, that wouldn't feel like the natural fit. In organizations like retail, So, retail, particularly online retailers who have had to make big changes in their organization to keep up with the demand, change their distribution, delivery processes. It fits beautifully within there and is working really well. One of the other places that I think it can work brilliantly is actually within healthcare and pharmaceuticals. So organizations, again, where there's people on the front line dealing with challenging situations, some of the processes and systems that they have to work to might be slowing them down. So whether that's because there's a digital transformation or technology that's required alongside this, I think this program really helps that, because you will learn the principles of process improvement and making change within the organization that even after our apprenticeship program can be implemented on any project or change program that they might be part of. So that's just some of the examples that we're seeing so far.
Yeah, and it fits beautifully with any type of culture change, and especially around if we want to create mentally healthy workplaces, it is about process, and it is about how to make effective process changes as well. And even though it's a different language, even when it comes to mentally healthy workplaces, we still need those lean, effective processes in place that everybody knows how to do, so that we're reducing work-related stress. We're following the legislation, which currently are definitely not embedded into the workplace as it stands. So how about the potential for somebody to come and say to us, well, that standard doesn't fit us. Can we map it over to a different standard that might be more effective for them?
Yeah, and it's a question we keep getting, isn't it, Emily, as we go through this journey. I think, again, it's that starting point of what is that organization truly trying to do? So yes, they want to create a more mentally healthy workplace, but what does that actually look like for them? Are they already doing some really good things, and actually it's just a behavioral piece that they need to focus on rather than process, for example? Then in that circumstance, yes, we could and have already successfully mapped the program to the level 5 leadership and management standard. Now, this standard is different. It won't have the same level of change focus within it. So from the implementation of that project will feel very different for anyone going on this program. However, it still works really well. It can be very effective in terms of role modeling the right behaviors and values within your organization to support mentally healthy workplaces and to get those managers and leaders bringing their team on that journey with them. So still very leadership focused, but I would say less around change, efficiency, and improving processes that might need to sit alongside their strategy that they're building.
Yeah, and it would only, just to be clear, it would only be the standard and the delivery of the standard that would change. The delivery of the mental health leadership diploma wouldn't change. They would still get that side completely as it would be delivered for the process leader standard, because that would not change. It's the standard and the delivery that actually changes. So just to be clear on that. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the only other thing that would change is the delivery methods. So let's not shy away from the fact that the funding for any apprenticeship standards is low for the amount of change that we are wanting to make. But Emily and I are really passionate about this program. We fundamentally believe that things need to change in the UK around mental health in workplaces. So to be able to do that and to be able to do it quickly, we are using the apprenticeship standard, and we want to reach lots of people through this. So it might be that delivery methods would change for level 5 because, particularly at the moment, everything is virtual, and actually that works for a lot of organizations to learn in that way. So that's just something to think about as well when people are looking at the different options available to them.
Yeah, brilliant. So I think that was all of our FAQs covered today with regards to the standard. Or hopefully, it sounds like, anyway, it sounds much more clearer to people, and hopefully this will help them to come forward and make that decision on going ahead with the apprenticeship and looking at which learners we should be getting involved to help them to create those mentally healthy workplaces together.
Fantastic. See you next time.
See you next time.